Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Britt Kanawha West Hancock Athletics Podcast. Dan Kroll here on September 6th, 2023 for episode 88. We were supposed to record this last week. I wasn't feeling too hot, so I figured we better postpone. Tonight, though, I have two seniors from the 2015 West Hancock boys basketball team who helped break an 85-year state tournament drought for Britt and West Hancock. I have Trevor Nalen on the bottom of the screen, and it's not Chloe Savoy up there. That's Jordan. Even the name says that. But these two guys were two of the four seniors on that 2015 boys basketball team led by Coach Brian Peterson. The other two seniors from that team, Joey DeHart and James Vanderplug, are not here tonight. James just messaged like 15 minutes ago that he got called into work. So we'll miss those two tonight, but we'll keep going with this. So welcome, gentlemen. Appreciate you coming on. Before we get to these guys, I'm going to hit our sponsors. We have 17 of them tonight. So a lot of money going into the Sanger Legacy Fund. Tonight we have Sarah Skarsky Bookkeeping Solutions, Vexen Fishing and Tackle Industries, owned by Derek and Liz Ing. Nick Schmidt, In His Image Photography and Red, White, and Brew Coffee Company by Ashley Mosier. Levi Dunn Trucking, Jeff and Becky Nielsen. Jay Hiscox of State Farm Insurance, Window World of Mason City, Swenson's Hardware, the Britt Car Truck Bike and Tractor Night Cruise, Miller and Sons Golf Cars, Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company, Doug and Kathy Zool, Daniel's Auto Collision, Kelly Real Estate, and Triple B's Food Trucks. And like always, that money that the sponsors give goes directly to the Sanger Legacy Fund. We recently had our Hall of Fame night. They helped fund that. We give scholarships to seniors. We support the athletic and activity funds at West Hancock. For example, when a team wins a state championship in a sport, we help with plaques and awards and rings and whatever else that the state doesn't supply for that. So if you want to give to the Legacy Fund, you can go to sangerstrong.com. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, you can message me on Facebook or shoot me an email at daniel.e.crawl@gmail.com. Our Way Back One segment tonight, 50 episodes ago, in episode 38. Speaking of Hall of Famers, was Jeff Nielsen. And him and his wife are now sponsoring the podcast. So I'd like to thank those guys for that. I'll have that link to that episode posted on the link to this tonight on my Facebook post. I'm going to hit a few sponsors here, and then we're going to get started with these two guys. Swenson's Hardware, your local independently family-owned hardware store since 1977 in downtown Britt. Check out John Swenson's business at swensons.doitbest.com. Thanks again to Doug and Kathy Zool, and also Daniel's Auto Collision in Charles City. Thanks to Jason Daniels, a 1990 West Hancock grad. You can call him at 641-220-3805 or go to danielsautocollision.com. Then we have Kelly Real Estate in downtown Britt, owned by Steve and Deanna Kelly. Call them at 843-4102. Check them out on Facebook. Again, that's Kelly Real Estate. And then the Britt Car Truck Bike and Tractor Night Cruise. Owner Jared Wingert also owns Mojo Productions. Give Jared a call at 515-408-1074. Go to brittcarcruise.com. And then again, like I already mentioned, Jeff and Becky Nielsen are now long-term sponsoring the podcast. Great people from the community there. Always glad to see them and talk to them, and thankful for them for giving to the podcast and the Legacy Fund. All right, fellas, my notes say 4, but again, we're down to 2. So let's start with some quick introductions. Mr. Savoy, just tell everybody where you're at these days, what you're doing, family, job, all that good stuff.
Yeah, Jordan Savoy. I am living in Britt, and I'm working at First State Bank as a loan officer. I've been married to my beautiful wife for 6 years now, and we got 2 dogs. And I recently took over the head JV basketball coach for the boys this year, so this will be my first year doing that.
So you had volunteered for a couple years, right? So you've been a part
of
it.
I volunteered for 3 years.
Okay, nice. And Trevor, how about you? Where are you at these days, and what's keeping you busy?
I'm in Sheffield. I work at Iowa Drainage. I tile fields, run heavy machinery, drive dump trucks, stuff like that. And I mean, I just kind of stick to golfing now. There's not a whole lot of fun stuff other than that anymore. Being an adult's not quite as much fun as people say.
Oh, no kidding. I tell kids that all the time. So, you know.
And I got my dog Duke. So it's It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Could definitely be worse.
Yep, definitely. And where do you golf mostly? Which course are you at
Ridgestone and Sheffield.
in Sheffield? Nice.
Yeah, I got a membership there, so a lot better than sitting at home doing nothing.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Well, we're gonna rock and roll. Like I said, these guys were seniors on the 2015 boys basketball team. They made it to state that year in 2015. The last year that a Britt or West Hancock boys basketball team had made it to state prior to that 2015 season was 1930. Your grandparents probably weren't even alive in 1930. My grandparents, I think one of them was born prior to 1930. So pretty crazy. Just to put things in perspective, I put in the notes here. Gas was 20 cents a gallon in 1930. Eggs were 18 cents a dozen. The Wizard of Oz was still 9 years away from being on the movie theater screens. And then again, fast forward 85 years, we finally made it to state in boys basketball. Girls had made it a couple years prior. Then in the 1980, they won a state title. But on the boys' side, it was like literally 85 years. I don't think any of those players on that team were alive when the 2015 team made it. And if they were very, very old. So I just want to frame that, put it in perspective. You guys broke a pretty lengthy streak that year. Before we get to that state tournament in 2015, we're going to talk about the lead up to Wells Fargo Arena. Let's go way back to the beginning. When did you guys start playing basketball? I'm assuming like third and fourth grade tournaments and stuff like that.
Yeah, got to be closer. Probably fourth grade, I'd say.
I think we played third grade, and we played with the fourth grade team.
Yeah.
Do you remember who your coaches were back then? The dads that would volunteer and make up some crazy plays?
Jordan's mom, wasn't it? And Joey's
Well,
mom?
the first year is my dad and John Weiland.
Okay.
And then after that, my mom and then Michelle DeHart coached the rest of the way.
Did you guys have some success at a young age or at that point where you kind of like, hey, we're not bad at this, or was it just chaos out there?
Wasn't very good until maybe like sixth, seventh, eighth grade.
Okay.
Right away, it was not very productive, I would say.
Yeah.
Skill wise.
Do you remember middle school a little bit then? He said he had some success. Remember the coaches playing in that Kanawha gym? What was that like?
I thought we were actually pretty good. I think we only really ever lost to Forest City.
Yeah, that was the only team we really lost to in middle school.
Because who was the coach?
Jansen.
Yep, Jansen was the coach. That's why.
Tyler, right? Tyler Jansen.
Yep.
Is he still teaching in the school in Britt or in Kanawha?
Yep, I believe so. And he's still coaching basketball too.
I long-term subbed at the middle school for like 3 months or whatever it was, and I couldn't remember. I was trying to think. I'm like, I can't remember if he was there or not. So
I'm pretty sure you were our one of our subs for a while in social studies or something, maybe.
Yep. Nidra Horseman went on maternity leave, and I was a young, dumb, didn't know what I was doing teacher, and I just figured out what to do day by day, and yeah. Yep, because you guys would have been eighth graders, I believe.
Yeah, seventh
and
grade.
then the seventh graders would have been like the Yakel brothers, or were they in your class?
They were in our grade.
They were in our class.
They were in your grade. Okay, so I'm trying to think who's in the grade below you guys.
Connor, Nate.
So I did have those guys. For some reason it's all a blur at this point. Now I'm in year 13 of teaching, year 15 overall of like subbing and everything and full-time teaching, and I see a kid in the hallway. I'm like, hey, how's sixth grade? And they're like, I'm in eighth grade now. I'm like, okay. So I can't keep track of it. So anyway, this isn't about me. So let's keep moving here. You guys jumped into high school 2011, 2012 season. You guys had an 11-12 record. I think that record's a little bit skewed because Gerardo Ibarra was a senior that year. He broke his leg in the state championship football game. You got a healthy Gerardo in the lineup, and you're definitely not an 11-12 type of team. You're looking at making probably a deep playoff run. You both played a little bit of varsity that year. Jordan played in 13 games, started in 1 game, scored a total of 20 points. Trevor played in 15 games, started in 7 of those, scored 51 points. What did you learn getting thrown into a varsity lineup as a freshman?
uh, I
Fast.
I can tell you about my first start. I think I don't know who got sick. It was either Jacob Patterson, I think, got sick, or he wasn't going to be there, so they threw me in, and we were playing Clarion, and started that game, got 5 fouls and a intentional foul and 0 points. So it was a pretty stellar starting for my high school career.
That's my kind of stat line right there.
I think that might have been one of the first games I played in, maybe. I think the first game I ever started against was North Iowa. And yeah, it's a learning curve. It goes from all right, score a bunch of points, do your thing, to all right, get out of the way.
Yeah.
A few rebounds, let these older guys do their thing and try not to mess up too bad.
And so you guys would have played my brother that year. He was a junior on the North Iowa team that went to state and got beat by Nottoway Valley. But I, as a sophomore, I got put up on the varsity kind of late in the season from the JV. Got to be like the 15th guy. Coach Drake said, "You're not going to play. You're just going to be on varsity and be happy with that." The first game I dressed, he put me in the game, and what I noticed was, holy crap, the speed of the game is like even from JV to varsity. You guys went from middle school to varsity to a degree. Like, I couldn't believe how fast the game went, and it's like, you don't keep up, you're in trouble, or if you don't just get out of the way, you're in trouble. So
yeah, it's a little weird being 15 and you go out there and there's guys with full beards. You're like, whoa,
man, full
these guys are
on
men.
men. Yeah, and yeah, you had Eric Cox, Josiah Eccles, Jacob Patterson, Johnny Ekoff are some of the older guys on that team. You said you're 15. What was it like playing for Coach Peterson? He's an intense dude. Did he have high expectations for you regardless of your age? Was he kind of understanding of the learning curve, a little bit of both? What do you remember about Coach P?
He did not care if you were a freshman or a senior. If you could play basketball, you're gonna be playing in that game. So I respect that, and he didn't get into the politics of starting seniors because they're seniors. They started on skill. So that's what, because usually you don't start Trevor and I our freshman year if that's happening. So
No, he's intense going from our middle school coach that was very calm, I don't think he yelled maybe a handful of times to there's expectations. I like that he didn't treat you like a freshman. He just expected you to learn.
Yeah.
There wasn't no learning curve or nothing like that, really. It was more, all right, figure it out. If you're good, you're good. If you're playing, you're playing. Don't whine about it. Be better.
Yep. That's one of my favorite phrases as a teacher and coach. Figure it out. Like I'm just the golf coach at our school, but then even with my fourth graders, it's like, guys, just figure it out. Like if I just tell you how to do everything and do it for you, you're never gonna learn, and just go with it and see what happens. But yeah, so sophomore year, 2012, 2013, a little bit of improvement record wise, 12-12. Returned a little bit of that crew from the year before, including the two of you, but you brought in Connor Sonius and Nate Paulus, and those two would go on to become if not two of the best, if not the two best players we've had in the history of West Hancock or Britt basketball. As freshmen, those two combined for 605 points. So they made an immediate impact on a pretty young team because you guys were just sophomores. Trevor scored 150 points with 146 rebounds that sophomore season. Jordan scored 82 points with 91 rebounds. Joey played in a couple games in a reserve role. So you had you two as sophomores, those two as freshmen, plus a couple other guys from the other grades mixing in. Did the 2015 state tournament feel like a possibility at that point, or were you guys just like, we're just glad to be here? Were you like, we wanted to be, what was kind of your overall feelings and thoughts about when you got to be a little bit older?
I guess I wasn't really thinking about it at making a run. We were just kind of doing our thing, just kind of getting used to playing with each other. Cause they played in a few tournaments with us when we were 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, maybe. I know Connor did a lot. Nate, he kind of moved in late. But so we're kind of used to playing with him and knowing what he likes, what he does. But it was just like the game slowed down a little bit. So you got another year of experience. You get to kind of learn what works, what doesn't work, and I think the expectations were definitely a little higher with 4 underclassmen starting that year. I think so. Or 3 or 4, whatever it was, and it just kind of we knew things were going to be looking up.
And I think you have to, West Hancock's a football school and has been since the 80s. And granted, nowadays, I would say we're a football school, we're a basketball school, we're a wrestling school, track. We pretty well balanced. But as a football player, the dome was always the goal. Like
Mm-hmm.
you guys went to the playoffs most years you were in school and maybe didn't go to the dome, but that was always the goal and the aspiration and the expectation. Basketball and Britt for decades was like, hey, we went 12-12. This is good. So to say like expectations of state might be a little far fetched at this point, even with a young nucleus. It's just kind of the way it was at that point. So a little bit of perspective there. Jordan, what'd you think? Sophomore year with that group of guys, what were you guys thinking?
Definitely, that was like Chris Slugger's senior year, so we thought we were going to go pretty deep in football. So that was kind of our mindset. We weren't really focused on, basketball and what the expectations were for the upcoming year for that. But when I know 4 of us started a lot that year, and when you start 2 sophomores and 2 freshmen, it's not going to be that year, but the years to come. So I think we're, as high schoolers, you can't see that far out, but I know our coaching staff were on the ball on that. So
speaking of football for a minute, you mentioned Chris Slugger. You guys were 2 years younger, so I'm thinking scout team. Did you ever have to try to tackle him in practice?
It's no fun.
Worst days of your life.
Yeah, just hold on.
Yeah, just let him run you over, and you might be able to say that you tackled him at some point.
Trips over, yeah.
And Trevor, I was going to tell you, I don't know if you know this, but I do the football record book and the stats for West Hancock. Kellen Smith on Friday against Belmont had 141 rushing yards. He was the first West Hancock player to have 100 or more receiving yards in a game since you in 2014.
Oh, geez.
I just assumed. I mean, I didn't look at the stats, but I don't, have them memorized by any means. I figured Rylan Barnes would have had 100 in his career in any game, but he had in the 90s like several times. So I was like,
I thought he had quite a few.
Yeah, well, he's second all time, I believe, in receiving yards, but it was 50 yards here, 70 yards here. Never got over that 100 mark. So I was like, hey, that's a good trivia question. Trevor Nalen, last player to get 100 and receiving in a game until just last week. So I thought that was kind of fun.
It's a rare feat.
Yeah, in the West Hancock world. But man, if you've watched our boys play lately, I'm like, we're opening up this playbook like we haven't seen since Jim Deemer in '73. So, but then someone on the outside looks and go, they passed it 5 times. Like that's totally nuts. So, yep. And one of them was a little shovel pass, so we'll take it. So
still counts.
Yep, exactly. So we're gonna hit some sponsors here, fellas, and we're gonna get back to your junior season. I'd like to thank the Showalter family in Window World in Mason City for sponsoring the podcast. Once an Eagle, always an Eagle. Fly high, Coach Sanger and Joey Showalter. I'd like to thank the Jay Hiscock State Farm team in Britt, proud supporter of West Hancock and the Sanger Legacy Fund. Give Jay or Lindsay a call at 843-3563 for a free quote. Levi Dawn Trucking. Thanks to Levi and his trucking company for sponsoring the podcast. Call Levi at 641-860-0077 or look him up on Facebook. Derek and Liz Ing, who I went to school with, they own Vexen Fishing and Tackle Industries. Check them out at tackleindustries.com or vexen.com. That's VEXAN. 2004 West Hancock grads. Thanks to them for sponsoring this episode. Thanks to Nick Schmidt, who I got to see the other night at the Hall of Fame night, 2000 West Hancock grad. He sponsored all these episodes. Proud supporter of the Sanger Legacy Fund. So thanks to Nick, future podcast guest here later this year, early next year. And then one of my oldest sponsors, not in terms of his age, but for how long he sponsored the podcast, Michael Ewing of Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company with locations in Britt, Kanawha, Clarion. Belmont and Dow's, go to ewingfh.com or give them a call at 843-3839. All right, fellas, junior season 2013, 2014. You got rid of Eric Kroll and that North Iowa group. Forest City obviously is always pretty good. But you guys had a breakout season that year and went 16-6. And I'm pretty sure that's the best record in decades for West Hancock up at that point. My freshman year, Ryan Johnson's group went, I think, 12-9. Jeff Sanger's group in 96, 97, I know we're close to going to state. I don't remember what their record was, so it was probably similar to this, but this was kind of a big deal. 16-6 for our boys basketball program. What did you guys think of that junior season?
It was definitely a lot better. I mean, we kind of we're not really young anymore. It's more of juniors and sophomores mainly, but still experienced, not like we haven't played how many games together. And I mean, this is definitely nice to see results. And practices definitely weren't the same as they were before. It was just every day was just a competition. I mean, our JV team was pretty stacked when you look at the names that were on it. That would probably beat most of the teams that we played. But it was just nice to finally bring some things together. And I mean, the short playoff run kind of sucked, but there's just ran into a team that, and Garrigan, and they were just on it that night, and we weren't.
How far into the playoffs was that? How many rounds deep did you guys go?
I think there was only 2.
I think we beat CWL or
and then lost to Garrigan.
Yeah, so it wasn't.
Do you remember how Garrigan did that year in the postseason? They lose the next game, they make it a little bit farther. Do you remember?
I think they lost right after that.
Yeah,
they didn't go very far.
Yeah, that always hurts. I've said, like, if a team beats you, at least if they go to state or at least a couple rounds deep, you can live with that. But when you just don't have a good night, they don't have the next night as a good night, it's always kind of a sucky deal. So one thing I did notice, though, you guys lost really early in the season to Garner Hayfield Ventura GHV 87-61, and then beat them 69-60 towards the end of the regular season. What happened in those two games?
I think when we were going into the season, our expectations were a little high, and we kind of were ahead of ourselves. And I think that was kind of an eye-opening game where we were like, okay, we got to focus up a little bit more. We know we're good, but we need to, focus in and take it to the court. Actually,
humbled really quick.
Yeah,
very quickly.
Especially to Garner, your rival. If it was to Forest City, I mean, that happens. We've traditionally never done well against Forest City, but 87-61 to your rival. I know they've always been pretty solid. They may state a time or two here and there, but over the years been pretty equal in talent on the basketball court. Those guys.
I remember that game. Jacob Hejlik had like 5 charges he took. He wore double arm sleeves with pads just so he could take charges. That was a big one. That was a fun game.
The 69-60 win, he did that.
Yeah.
Was that game in Britt or Garner?
In Britt.
So he lost on the road, won at home. Was there a lot of winning on the road in the conference at this time for you guys or anybody, or was it pretty home team heavy? Do you remember how that went?
I think it was pretty home team heavy because Osage was good during that time. Forest City was stacked. Garner was good. Garrigan, they lost a lot that year before that. So, but every night was a tough battle that year, I remember, especially going on the road.
I'm pretty sure Osage about put up 100 on us at Osage that year, and then we turned around and I think we beat them at home too.
Yeah, I think so.
In overtime or something like that.
Yeah.
Because they had that Trevor Holland that was a stud.
Yeah.
Every team had a stud.
Was Garrigan in our conference by then?
I think that might have been the first year we got him, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, there was a time where with the NIC that it felt like college football realignment right now. It was like, I don't know who's in the conference, who's not. Eagle Grove was coming in. I think North Union came in at one point, and then we did the big the big merger. Probably was it the year after you guys were out? Probably
It was our
2015,
senior
16,
year, I
something like
think.
that. Was it your senior year?
I think so. Because we played North Union and Eagle Grove and all them twice.
Yeah. Then it just got to the point where it's like Rockford was a Tuesday night conference game. I'm like, what are we doing? That just it's crazy. It's kind of like college football right now. You look at the top 25 rankings and you're like, 20 of these teams are going to be in the Big Ten in 2 years. So what's the
Pretty
point?
much. Mhm.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit. So yeah, that season, Trevor, you scored 295 points, 198 rebounds. That's good stat line. Jordan, 138 points, 74 rebounds. Joey had 23 points, 37 rebounds. Gonna kind of ask the same question. Now that you saw that success, felt that success at 16-6, had an early postseason exit that can usually make you kind of hungry in the off season. Thoughts going into your senior year? Was state a thought at that point?
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
definitely
was
was.
definitely on our mind. Especially we went summer basketball that year. We
Mhm.
went down to Iowa City to play 2A and 3A teams, and I think we only lost one game out of like 9 games that we played.
Nice.
Yeah. There
And,
was, yeah, there were
and
some definitely some good schools down there. I think Williamsburg was down there. They were actually pretty good. And some of them bigger, like the big cities, Iowa City teams. And
Yeah. What was Coach Peterson feeding you guys? What was he telling you in that off season? Just get in the gym and work out and go to camp, or was there talks of the word state thrown in there?
I don't think we really like said it, but we all knew. And then
Yeah.
I guess it didn't really, it's kind of like the thing of coming off a really bad football season. We were all kind of like, all right, football, football, football. And then, all right, we lose there. And it's like, oh, now it's time to settle in and go
Yeah.
make a run here because early playoff loss in football didn't really sit well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we tore up the summer league at Nyack to a bunch of them bigger schools, and we knew things were gonna be pretty good.
Let me go back to football real quick since you mentioned it again, and why not? It's football season. You guys were a part of that 0-9 football team in
I like to bring
2013.
that up.
Yeah.
No, and it's if you've read my book, Jordan, um, I think that team played a really important part in what's happening right now in our football program. And granted, the guys that are playing right now were in elementary school back then, but um, you guys, I mean, 0-9, I went 7-2 my senior year, and people were like, the world is falling apart. What is going on with West Hancock football? We missed the playoffs. We had 08, 09, went 2-7, 3-6, and you guys go 0-9. And there was a quote from Coach Sanger in Des Moines Register, like talking about how you guys never gave up, you guys worked hard, you got better, you were young, and then we've not missed the playoffs since that year. You said, yeah, you had an early exit in 2014, went 5-5, lost to Denver in the first round, was like 35-14, something like that. Again, if my wife's gonna watch this, she's gonna be like, if you ever forget my birthday, you're dead, because I can remember that. But
I'm
that
pretty sure
I
they
think
made it to the dome too.
Yeah.
Denver did. They went to the semis a couple years. They
Yeah.
had some big boys.
Hmm.
But
Pretty
no,
big.
like that kind of sparked a fire, I'd say, under the football staff and the players. I haven't missed the playoffs since. The last 5 years, especially, have been exceptional. But it would have been easy for you guys to quit. It would have been easy for the group below you to be like, well, we're no longer a football school, and that could have been the end of West Hancock football. But now we've been 10 years in a row in the playoffs, couple titles, runner up. It's pretty cool to see the bounce back from that, because some schools that'd be the end of it right there, and you'd be looking at a lot of poor seasons. So yeah, sorry, sore subject, but I just think that's neat how you guys bounce back, and then it's better than ever at this point. So anyway, let's get back to basketball before you guys just get off this podcast and leave me by myself. Yeah. 2014, 2015 season, you guys went 22-5, won the district title, the sub-state title, and then made it to state, first time in 85 years. But before we get to state, let's kind of go through the season here. After 10 games, You guys were 9-1, and again, that has to be the best start for a West Hancock basketball season, probably in the history of the school. But you guys had a little bit of chaos, a lot of sadness, and really horrible thing that happened to you guys. December 5th, your assistant coach, Jim Becker, passed away. And it was the night of the Garner game, correct? That's what you said earlier. Tough deal. Talk about Coach Becker. Talk about that night and the situation that happened. Go ahead.
Yeah, we were on the bus when we found out, heading over to Garner, and that 10-minute bus ride sure felt like a 2-hour bus ride during that time. I think we're all pretty speechless on what happened, and when we got to Garner, we made a group decision to play, which I don't know how we were able to play during that game, but yeah, it was tough to do that, but we all decided that Coach Becker would definitely want us to play and go compete our hardest, because that's what he was all about.
Did the coaches tell you that? Did it start to leak on like your phones, social media, or anything, or were you told directly?
I think we kind of heard about some like whispers of it on the bus, if I remember right, but we didn't actually know anything like until they pulled us into the locker room at Garner. But I think we all kind of had an idea that it was coming. But
it was a car accident, correct?
I think it was a health issue that
Was it? Okay.
and then he crashed during that time. Yeah.
Okay. So health related issue that led to him crashing.
Yeah.
So you won that game 74-64 at Garner, you said. Again, like it's been 10 years almost, but like can you remember, like was it just an out of body experience that night on the floor? Was it hard to focus? What do you remember about that?
I remember we struggled early in that game. I think we came out really cold. I think we're down quite a bit, and then we came back and we got the crowd going, and that our crowd is always usually electric, and when we get the crowd going, it just motivates us more. And I remember, I think one of us hit a three, or I hit a three, and I screamed. And I took college classes in Garner, and the next day they're like, I'd never seen you like that before. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I was conscious doing that, but I definitely think we played for him, and yeah, can't remember too much from that night. But.
Yeah. And I'm assuming, was the crowd aware of it at that point?
Yeah.
So it wasn't.
We had a moment of silence before the girls' basketball game.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. It's crazy. I learned this in my research. Coach Becker appeared on episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. He was an actor before he came to, got married, moved to Britt, got his insurance company going. Not too many Star Trek actors turned assistant basketball coaches. That was just kind of neat fact about Coach Becker. Trevor, anything else about Coach Becker that night or after that in the season?
I remember he was always big on hustle. He didn't care if you're good, bad, nothing. But if the effort was there, that was his main thing. He was always on you about just give a good effort. It doesn't matter. Just play hard. Rebound. That was a big one.
Yeah.
But
he was huge into statistics. I remember, I think our first game, he brought us starters in, and I don't remember what game he played. It was like a casino game. Don't remember our magic trick. And he talked
magic trick.
Basically, he like bet us fake money and to see who would win. And like he won every time, and talked about statistics. And his big saying was numbers never lie, and kind of telling us how our numbers are stacking up for the season, and just to put in that perspective and potential.
No worries.
No worries.
And the crazy thing to me is you guys had to play a game the next night. You went from that game to Lake Mills, and Lake Mills wasn't then what they are now. They've turned into kind of a basketball powerhouse. You had to go on the road to play Lake Mills just a night after this, and probably I don't know when the funeral was, but you had a game on the 8th as well at West Fork, so you had to.
At home versus West Fork.
Those are both home games.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quick stats says on the road, so they might
both
the other
home.
way around. Well,
Yeah.
it's saying every game's an away game. I don't know why it says that on there. Everything says at before it. But anyway, you had Lake Mills on the 6th, you had West Fork on the 8th, funeral for Coach Becker somewhere mixed in there, North Iowa on the 12th. But you won all those games. So the West Fork games stood out to me because they've always been pretty good programs, 64-55. And then on the 16th, the perfect record came to an end. Forest City got you guys 74-57. Then you bounced back for some pretty good wins against Newman, Belmont, Eagle Grove. Then a nice 19-point win on January 9th, 2015 at against Osage. First 10 games, what are you guys feeling? How's it? How's that? Besides the Coach Becker thing, just strictly basketball. How you guys feeling about the season?
Kind of what we expected, I think.
Yeah.
With the exception of, I mean, we knew a lot of the teams that we played them for how many years, us being seniors now, we kind of know what to expect, how they stack up against us. But I mean, the year before we went to Sheffield and got rocked by West Fork, who ended up being state runners up that year. But I think that was kind of the game when they came to Britt, and we kind of, I wouldn't say we beat up on them or anything, but we came out, didn't back down, and got things done. We kind of did what we wanted to all night, and that was kind of the game where it's like, okay, these guys are a class bigger than us, ranked in the top 4 or 5, and we kind of handled them pretty well. So it's going to be a good year.
Yeah. And talk about your style of play, because when I played at West Hancock, Coach Drake and Jordan, were you a manager when I played or close to that?
I was.
Okay, that's what I thought. We played a slow, methodical, grinded out 30-second set type of game. And which for me, honestly, it worked out well. That was my style of play on any. I could have ran up and down the court and done okay, but it benefited me. But you guys, what Coach P say? You wanted a shot off in like 9 seconds or something like that.
Dean.
Talk about your style of play. How much fun was that to play that type of ball?
When you get the green light to shoot it basically from anywhere on the other half court, that's a pretty fun style of basketball to play.
Yeah, I don't remember him ever being very mad about any shot we ever took. It was kind of his philosophy was we listen to him on defense, do his thing there. We have free range as long as we're not too wild on offense. But it was I don't remember running many plays.
Yeah. And Trevor, were you an outside threat as well, or were you mostly down low?
I think I was more inside, but I shot a decent amount of threes. I think not a ton, but
yeah, you could step out a little bit and hit one, but you weren't going to be one of the top couple guys that are going to.
No, it was Connor, Nate, Jordan. Those guys were more shooting, and I was kind of more get the rebounds.
Yeah. Who was your 5th starter that year? Is you two, Nate,
Joey,
Connor, and Joey was the 5th starter? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep, I wasn't sure about that. So, one thing, even when I played, and again, we played slow, methodical basketball. The girls never had a good record when I was in school. The gym would be packed every night, or even on a Tuesday night. If it wasn't packed, it was like 80 to 85% full, I would say. You guys, the girls had just come off going to state a couple of years prior. You guys were on your way to state. What was the community like basketball wise at this point for you guys?
There's definitely expectations that the community had for basketball. I think they liked, being able to go down to Wells Fargo and cheer on the girls, and they saw our potential. And we definitely had some packed crowds with expectations of, making it back down there.
Home and away.
Yeah, most nights was pretty. I mean, you have your exceptions of the games that are really far away and weird nights and stuff, but yeah, that's for the most part. The community always traveled well. Football, basketball, even when we weren't good.
Yeah. I still remember when I played football, we'd go to Sheffield to play SCMT before West Fork. And about 45 minutes before the game started, our side, little bleachers on the side were full, and our fans started using the home side bleachers. And the Sheffield people were like, what's going on around here? It was just fun to watch travel. And like even now, I'll try to get up to a game or two every year, football and hopefully basketball, watch Jay coach and stuff and Jordan coach. But yeah, the West Hancock fans come out for their athletics, that's for sure. So
And kind of make you feel like you're a little bit of a rock star for a little bit, like small town famous. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean, it's a cool feeling.
And to me, it doesn't like. So we lived in Indianola for 10 years, and we had some Division I athletes while we lived there. And I mean, our church is 700-800 people. I could talk to lots of people at our church and be like, "Did you hear about that kid on the football team?" Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, they have no clue. How's the football team? I don't know. And up in Britt, it's, not only does everyone know the football team is good or the basketball team is good, it's like statistics and records and the next 3 games coming up and playoff scenarios. It's just a different world compared to these 3A, 4A, 5A towns that I've been around a little bit. So all right, guys, we're gonna hit some sponsors and we're gonna wrap up your senior season here. I'd like to thank Miller and Sons Golf Cars for bringing you great service and quality golf cars for over 50 years. Contact Skipper Jim at 843-4132 or go to millergolfcars.com. Thanks to In His Image Photography and Red, White, and Brew for sponsoring the podcast. That's owned by Ashley Mosier and her husband. They're in the old Hobnob location, and when I was in Britt last month, I was told, and it looked like pretty much every business person in the area is going there frequently and getting coffee and drinks and everything, and they're doing really well. So check them out up on Main Street at the old Hobnob. And then Triple B's Food Trucks, owned by Brett Kozlerich, my student teacher from a few years ago, has the best, always fresh, never frozen tenderloin. I work for him when I can in the food truck. He's a great guy and will go anywhere for an event. Call him at 641-895-0885. And if you do call him, tell him he still owes me money from summer work and he just keeps forgetting to send me a check. And then we have Sarah Skarsky of Sarah Skarsky Bookkeeping Solutions for all your small business bookkeeping needs. Go to email her at sarahskarsky@gmail.com. That's SKARSKI Skarsky. All right, let's keep going through the regular season here and get to the playoffs. You won against North Union, Garner, Garrigan, North Iowa to get you about to the end of January, and then you guys lost 2 games in a row. And on this podcast, I always joke we end up talking about the losses more than we talk about the wins because usually there's a whole lot less losses that occur, and they sting a little bit more than if you're used to not winning a whole lot. So you guys lost to Lake Mills on January 24th, 79-64. And then you played Forest City a lot closer, but lost 81-73. Talk about those 2 games again, because we talk about the losses more than the wins. What do you remember about kind of those mid to late season defeats?
Playing up in Lake Mills is just different. I don't know what it is about that gym. It's just different. The atmosphere, they bring a good crowd no matter what they are. And like Waldo got kicked out his senior or his junior year there. Junior or freshman, maybe. Might have been his freshman.
He was early on.
Yeah.
What do you do?
No, literally nothing. I think he went up and talked to a ref and maybe brushed against him or something like that, or said something and got ejected first half, I'm pretty sure.
And anybody who knows Waldo knows that he's not a real fiery guy like that. Like, he plays hard and he has the passion for it, but he's not gonna just lose his cool out there. That's not him.
He's a pretty mellow guy.
Very
So
calm.
playing up there is just I think we probably shot 10% that game. It was just awful.
We've never played well up there. I still to this day don't think any teams really play that well up there. It's just something with it that kind of throws you off, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just in all our heads.
Yeah, Lake Mills isn't losing anywhere to anybody right now. They're on kind of about a 4-year run. That's pretty incredible. Did you guys ever beat Forest City in high school?
Nope. I don't think we never beat Eric Erdman once. I don't think.
He missed one tournament during when we played in Little League and we beat him, but he wasn't there. So
Yeah, so it doesn't technically count.
You
That guy's amazing.
you don't have to tell people that. You just say we beat Forest City in fifth grade. You don't have to give the details. I always tell people, so I was a head varsity football coach for 2 years. When I left subbing at West Hancock, I got my first job. I won 2 games in 2 years, but I just tell people Coach Bob Sanger and I won a combined 360 football games with 3 state championships. Where I end the conversation, I don't have to tell them the part that I only won 2 games and 0 championship. People, you tell people what you want them to hear. So anyway, you moved on from those 2 games, beat Belmont by 43, Eagle Grove pretty handily. Garrigan you beat by 5. What's so funny? What's the Belmont? You have a little issue there?
No, it's just the rest of the games are like, I don't know, 20, and you see your 43. It's like, ooh,
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, was that game in Belmont or at Britt?
I
think at Belmont. The second time was at Belmont.
think we dropped like 90 on them too.
Yeah, 88-45. You barely squeaked past Garrigan, 52-47. And then I want to talk about this Newman game, 103-70. How do teams combine for 173 points in 32 minutes?
That was one of my favorite games I've ever played in, because it's just they came out and pressed us. That's what we do. Like, that's our style. We're a lot better at it than you guys are, and they came out and yikes. I don't think it was very close most of the game. I think we kind of put the pedal down and kind of made them pay for pressing us. Connor's a one-man press breaker. Then it's 4-on-5 for everybody else to score the rest of the game. So my opinion, wasn't a very good strategy, but it's fun to play against. I mean, it's runouts all game.
And Connor is like, what is he, top 10 in state history in assists?
Probably.
I mean, he could just weave through anybody and find the open guy every single time. It was pretty fun to watch. So yeah, probably not the best strategy.
I'm pretty sure we had a lot of people in double figures that night, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Well, you have to with 103 points.
I think I'd have to look. I can't remember.
I don't think we played the fourth quarter. I think
no. I remember being so hyped on the bench. We're sitting there, everybody's just going in. Our backup guys that ended up being really good in the next couple years. They came in and just, I mean, you can't tell them not to play hard.
Yeah.
And they didn't take their guys out either. And everybody wants to hit 100 once, so that was pretty cool. Especially
that's my thing. Like, so you're a Sheffield guy. I remember when I was a senior, SCMT got some hot water. They beat North Central Manly 138-15.
Yeah.
And like that Coach Shones, I think he came back and coached just recently a couple years ago. He, caught some crap for that. And he's like, I can't tell my third stringers to just stand there and hold the ball for 5 minutes. Like, what good does that do them? And he said, I told them only to shoot layups. It's like, you're darned if you do, darned if you don't type of thing, but it's like, if kids are out there and there's still time on the clock, you got to play. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're not being, there's an extreme you could take, but still. So, yeah. So let's keep moving here for the sake of time. You guys beat Osage by 21, lost by 3 to Clarion, non-conference game there. Jordan, they're both shaking their heads. That shouldn't have been a loss.
Complete oversight. We were already looking at playoffs and didn't take that game seriously.
I think that kind of messed with us for our seeding too.
For state, it did.
Yeah, because we would have been middle of the pack. I thought we were going to get a 4 seed, but that we ended up getting played in Danville, which we shouldn't have had to right away. I didn't think, but yeah, that game was ridiculous. Nothing went right. We were all just
overtime in that game.
Yeah, literally we couldn't have done anything right. That was just one of those nights. There's a basket on the hoop, and their side, I don't know what they had in their Gatorade that night, but it was bad. That was one night that P gave us a little bit of his mind.
But those could be the games too that, like, State might not have happened without that game per se. You know, sometimes there's those situations where you need a late season wake up call, and you kind of, running on a high and we're invincible. Then that loss could happen in the playoffs before you even get to state. So it just depends on the situation, but you never know. So yeah, so you guys started the playoffs here. You had a 4-game stretch to get to state. You always start, if you're a higher seed in the district, you start with one of those like play-in games. You had to play Cal Latimer. No offense to Cal, but they usually have to beat a Clarksville or something, and then they have to go play a 1 seed, and it's never pretty. You guys won that game 86-29. That's just one you just kind of move on from and go to the next. Then you played Rockford on February 24th, won that game 66-41. You had to play Newman again a couple nights later. Did not drop 100, but still won 78-54. What was the difference in that game? Did they not press, I assume?
No, they didn't.
So that probably saved them 25 points right there, or whatever it was. So
playing a team 3 times in a season is beating them 3 times in a season. That's always a tough task to do. So
yeah,
they weren't a bad team either. We just always had their number. They just never really, I don't think they ever really got close to us.
Yeah.
It's just kind of
who were some of the players on that team? Do you remember some of the names of that team?
Caden Wadley, Joey Verstegen.
Okay, Verstegen. Yeah. The Globe
Those
Gazette.
were their 2 guys.
They always get a little extra press being in Mason City from the Globe. So I remember the Verstegen name.
Yeah, really good baseball player, both of them.
So that, of course, they were. We found some. So they have like a secret little hidden gym in their school where it's dedicated to nothing but baseball. When we'd walk around the school before games, like, yep, they're pretty good. They have a gym that literally does not get used for basketball, so that makes sense. But that was for the district title, sub-state final. First time you guys have been in this situation, district final or sub-state final. Talk about the atmosphere. Talk about the lead up, the hype, the nerves going into a game to go to state against Nashua Plainfield.
It was I remember we got there super early, and I didn't really care for that because we were all just sitting around, kind of walking around our jumpsuits still. It was pretty sure it was a Saturday night. Then you just watch people walk in, and we couldn't actually start warming up. I think there's some rule that you can't warm up before an hour before the game, and
yeah,
it just kind of, I mean, you're just sitting there just building up, and then it's kind of nice to finally get that first sweat going.
Do you remember what gym was that in? What town?
Mason City High.
Was that Mason High? That's a big gym. Fill it up that night?
Yes. It was over 3/4 full. It was a lot of orange, a lot of red.
Yeah. A lot of people from other schools besides us in Nashua.
Yeah. And some of Coach Becker's family came in and watched it.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Usually it's like there's one team left in the area. So if you want to go watch a game, there's one option. So it's a lot of fun for conference opponents to come in and support you guys. Talk about that game a little bit. You won 84-73. How close was it? Let's see in my notes here. I kind of got ahead of myself here. There we go. You're up 12.
I remember we started out like 20-3 or
20-5. Yep, after the first quarter. Yep.
It was we came out ridiculous. And we kind of stunned them, I think. And I think we kind of let up a little bit because I feel like we should have played a lot better than we did, but I don't think it was ever really in doubt in our minds.
Yeah. So you're up 12 at halftime, so 15-12. And I love how you say we let up and still scored 84 points. Like definitely a different style of play than what I was used to when Jordan was a manager for my team. Yeah, you let up and score 80 something. That's great. You were up by a decent amount. My notes, I have a typo. It says 58-4 at the end of the third quarter. I know that's not right. How much were you up by after the third? Do you remember?
I'd have to guess like 15 probably.
Okay, so what was the strategy going into the fourth quarter then? Did you hold the ball a little bit more, or did P still want you to be aggressive?
I don't think we ever held
aggressive.
Hammer down, leave no doubt.
Yeah, just go. Talk about that celebration. Did you guys know that 1930 was the last year we'd been to state at that point? Had that been brought up? So to add
Yeah.
to the celebration a little bit.
Yeah, it was definitely like people have told us, and when it became more of a possibility, is definitely like, all right, let's break the streak here.
How about you, Jordan? What are you thinking? You were a senior, you broke the streak, you're going to state.
I don't know. I was pretty excited. Obviously, I got to see my sister do it a couple years before that, a couple times. So it was pretty awesome to be able to just experience it myself, and be able to, enjoy it with the team. We worked all the way back from summer basketball, and our hard work finally paid off all the way to state basketball, all the ups and downs of the season. So it's pretty real, like just a weight lifted off our chest, but we all knew that we weren't done. But we went to Perkins afterwards, so that was pretty nice.
Yeah,
The whole team did.
Yeah.
Nice.
it was. I'm pretty sure Coach P made the deal with us that if we won, we'd go to Perkins.
And I,
But
as a almost 37-year-old man, if my wife said, "You want to go to Perkins right now?" I'd be like, "Nah." And to motivate high school kids, like if you win this game, you go to state. We're gonna go to Perkins, and you can get some average hash browns at 10 o'clock at night, whatever it takes. I guess. So
yeah,
that's funny.
it's just cool. It's a different feeling, and especially for Coach P to get it in his home gym, and with everything going on throughout the whole season, to finally achieve that goal is pretty. I don't know. It's just a cool feeling walking around with a banner over your back, and every kid in the student section going nuts. It's just a big group celebration.
Yeah. No. Talk about James here real quick. I was hoping he'd be on here. Coach P told me that you guys had a nickname for James.
Mariano.
Mariano, explain that. I thought that was fantastic.
It was just kind of because he didn't play a lot. So he was more towards the end of the game when it came in. We were trying to get threes up, shoot the ball, and he was always reserved. He was real gentleman about it, or just he just wouldn't jack up threes. He's just real like, all right, well, we're gonna get this thing done. We're gonna close it out. So we named him Mariano because every time he came in, the game was over. He's closing
Game
it.
was over.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coach
Mariano
Scott
Rivera.
brought that up about Mariano Rivera.
Yeah.
Said that's the best nickname he's ever gave someone.
That's a great nickname. If you're not a baseball fan, Mariano Rivera was like the greatest closing pitcher in baseball history. Played for the Yankees. I think Enter Sandman would play when he would come out of the bullpen, didn't it? And I think he blew like one save in his entire career. Like it was automatic win if he came in to finish out a game. So I was hoping James would be here tonight to talk about it. But you guys definitely had a lot of those games this season, and now you had a trip to the state tournament, Wells Fargo Arena in Des Moines. The thing I don't like about the state tournament, what I don't remember the date was, but you have like a almost like a 10-day wait to play your state game. Was that pretty hard with all the hype every day at school? That's probably all you can think about is we're going to state. You have the pep rallies, you have, a little bit more press there from the Globe and whoever else. What was that like waiting for that day to actually come on March 9th?
It just, it kind of seemed like in normal days and everything, but it just never seemed like it got any closer. It just took forever to get there. And then next thing you know, we're practice the next day, day after day. And it's kind of hard because we are playing 3 games a week. So you're not used to having 5, 6, 7 days of practice in a row. So that was a little different, but it is what it is.
Jordan, what do you remember about the lead up to state?
Yeah, I remember kind of dreading going to practice because you just 5 days straight of Danville stuff and implementing that. And as a coach now, give me 5 days to try to learn someone's offense. That's what you want. But as a player, that kind of gets redundant, and you're just tired of doing that, and you just want to play the game.
Yeah, chomping at the bit. Did you guys do anything special to prepare for like the depth perception of the baskets at state? Did you practice anywhere special, or do anything to kind of help you prepare for fans behind the hoop and all that type of stuff?
I don't think we ever really did. I mean, we shot around in that gym down in Des Moines, but that
Yeah.
wasn't really.
But that was in a building, so that didn't really.
Nothing the same, yeah.
No.
Yeah. So you guys get down there March 9th. You were the fourth game of the day, I believe, in Class 1A.
That last
Pretty
game.
pretty fun day for me because I was teaching at Nottoway Valley at the time. I caught a lot of crap from North Iowa people because that's who they lost to at state in 2012. They were the first game that day, so I get there, half hour before that game starts. I'm like, well, the Brit game's not gonna go till I'm gonna be here till about 5 o'clock tonight. I get there, sit down by myself, just kind of on my own. Coach Bob Sanger walks up to me, taps me on the shoulder, sits down next to me, and he talked to me through the West Hancock game. We sat there and talked for like 7 hours or whatever it was. And, coach was usually a man of few words at school and on the practice field. He got to his point and moved on. And so that's you guys going to state was awesome. Now that coach has passed, that day means a lot to me because I got to spend a lot of quality time with him. That day, one of my favorite days involved in athletics and stuff. So that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, on the court, things didn't go as planned. Trevor, you were talking about the seeding process, that Clarion game. If that maybe would have gone differently, maybe our seed would have been a little better and we avoided Danville right away. Do you guys remember what that would have maybe looked like seeding wise if we had beaten Clarion?
We would have had to been like 4 or 5 if I had to guess. I think we would have ended up playing Belle Plaine maybe. I can't remember for sure. But yeah, that game definitely Danville was a buzzsaw. They did the same thing we did, except they were used to being down there. They've been there how many years? And
I think it was their third straight year at that point, wasn't it? Those Sukup brothers were
yeah, them twins were
played all
really good
through.
scorers.
Yeah. So they beat us 69-47. After the first quarter, we're only down 15-10. So I'm assuming it's like, well, that's just a couple 3-pointers away, and we hit those with ease. But they outscored us in the second quarter to take a 38-22 lead at halftime. What were your guys' thoughts in the locker room? Was 16 points insurmountable at that point? Were you guys pretty confident going back out there?
I think we're pretty confident we would be able to get back into the game and give it our best shot. We weren't going to, leave without a fight. We worked too hard to get down there. I think everyone kind of took a deep breath during halftime. Lights were shining bright and kind of everyone kind of had the newness wear off, and we kind of treated it as like a new game at halftime, try to get back into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Went from being down 38-22 to 55-38 after 3 quarters. So the offense got going a little bit more, but their offense didn't slow down either. And then final score again was 69-47. Disappointing, frustrating, I'm sure, but at the end of the day, you guys did something that hadn't happened in 85 years. Going back to that 1930, the Brit team made it down there and they lost I think there was like 40 points combined scored in that game. Basketball was a little different back then. So you guys might look back on that state experience with a little bit of frustration, but every other team in the 80 some years before, you're pretty jealous of what you guys accomplished. And then obviously West Hancock made it back in 16 and in 17. Going back in the school, seeing your trophy, seeing your banner, talking about it, doing a podcast. What's it mean to you guys to be a part of that 2015 team?
Kind of cool. It's just, I mean, you can always look back at it and be like, wow, that's just something you can't ever take away from you. I mean, you went down and played in Wells Fargo. You got to do the whole experience. Not the results we wanted, but I mean, the next year that the guys went down again, it wasn't a shell shock for them just walking in. They knew what to expect, kind of had a general idea, and it wasn't just going down there without a clue.
Yeah, just being happy to be there type of mentality. Did you guys feel kind of happy to be there, or were you thinking we're going to go down there, we're going to win the whole thing?
I don't think we knew what to think.
Yeah.
We were definitely happy to be there, but I'm not saying we didn't want to win, obviously. That's not what we were thinking, but
Yeah.
it was definitely a happy to be there. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
But
You always
it
hear that in
was
the paper sometimes, like, oh, we're just thrilled that we made it. And I'm like, come on. Like, yeah, people say that, but at the end of the day, no one goes there to lose. So,
exactly.
Jordan, what are you thinking? What do you feel about your legacy, especially now that you're an assistant coach, been assistant coach for a couple years? Um, do you bring that up ever? Not in a like an arrogant way at practice, but like a hey guys, like it's possible. Like you use it as kind of a teaching tool.
Yeah, definitely. Like Trevor noted it before, like our practice team that we practice against every day, they made us better. They worked their butts off every day, scrimmaged us, and a lot of our practices ended in like almost a fight. Like it was pretty competitive, and
Mhm.
I tell my JV guys, like, you put in and put the effort in to make the varsity better, and that'll only help you guys out in the years to come. So I definitely, our success wouldn't have been as good as it was without our scout team those years. So
And think of all the extra practices those guys and you guys and just the program in general were getting in those deep playoff runs. We always talk in football, like these last, 3 of these last 4 years going to the championship game. These guys are getting an extra season plus of football just in playoff games, plus how many practices. Like I mean, that people sometimes don't account for that. That when season's over, early February for a lot of people, you guys got to play till March, and then they did it a couple more years. That's huge for the program as well. I had a question for you guys that wasn't on the notes. So, state, you guys were one and done. If you would have won the next game, then you get a consolation game. Do you do you like that format where you have to win your first round game to get a second and a third game? Do you wish like all that hype, all that lead up going to state, and then in about an hour it's over essentially? Do you feel like there should be kind of like a double elimination type of format, or is it if we lost, we're done? What do you think?
I mean, they just for us, it'd be just looking from the outside in for our perspectives. Like, of course, I wish it was a double elimination, but I mean, it makes sense for it just to be single elimination, and then you just kind of wean it down a little bit, and then a consolation. But it's just kind of like a extra incentive to win a game. Like, not that you're not trying already, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, because I look at it like it's been 85 years and it's a 2.5 hour drive, and then it's done. Like, those games go fast. It's just, yeah, if you know, sometimes you're like rewarding a losing team with another game, and the association, we always say, oh, they're just wanting the money or whatever, but
Mhm.
it's just, it happens fast, and then you're done, and you're like, whoa, all that work, and it's gone. So I don't know, I was curious. Jordan, do you feel the same way as Trevor, or what do you think?
yeah, I definitely would have loved to play another game and go back out on that court, but I see it where, they're on a time crunch with a whole week, and it's already better in the girls' association where even if you win a game, you don't get a consolation game if you lose the next round. So um, it was already better than that, but I see it both ways. But
Yeah, I know
obviously, I'd love to play it again.
the
Yeah.
girls association for softball used to play out state softball all the way out to eighth place, so you were guaranteed 3 games just making it no matter what. So a lot of different ways to look at it. I was just curious what you guys thought. So yeah, so we're gonna wrap this thing up here, fellas. Thanks again to my 17 sponsors. Next week I have a fun one. I have the 5 starting offensive linemen from the 1973 Brit football team. We're gonna watch the state championship game together. And then I have Nick Schmidt, like I mentioned earlier, and then Lori Tlach, Amber Hejlik, and then mixed in with those two podcasts, just based on timing of the football playoffs. I have 3 playoff football podcasts scheduled, assuming we go far into the playoffs like usual. And then in early December, I have a fun one with the 4, hopefully 5 starting state championship winning quarterbacks in Britt West Hancock history. That'd be Jim Deemer, Chad Klein, the Lear boys, and then hopefully Mitchell Smith if they go down and win another championship. So that should be a lot of fun, playoff podcasts that I do with Jay and Kevin as well. So fellas, any last things you want to shout out, things we forgot to talk about earlier, people we didn't mention? Um, just time is yours. I always leave it open at the end just in case you forgot about something.
I would say just big shout out to our coaches, Coach P, Coach Ice, who just recently retired from basketball coaching this past year, Coach J, and our freshman year we had
DeVoley.
yeah, Joe DeVoli. He was a student teacher, but he joined the basketball coaching staff that year, and we had a lot of fun with him. But
Never
they
heard
were
of
a big part. And yeah, big shout out to our coaches for sure.
Whatever happened to Joe DeVoli or whatever his name was?
I think he's up in Minnesota somewhere.
Yeah, he was a teacher, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if he coaches or anything like that, but he practiced with us. He had his coaching license and practiced with us, and that was a bunch of fun practices going against coaches.
he probably had more fun than you guys. He's like, I get a days 4 years prior wherever he was from. That's fun. Yeah. Trevor, anything else you want to shout out? Anyone you want to shout out, or things you want to say before we wrap it up?
I mean, kind of the same thing. Ryan Johnson, Brady Wilson too. Those guys. I mean, it was helpful what they did. They came in, donated their time to do it, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot of fun. Just switching it up. You're not playing the same people that you play in practice every day. It was just nice to come in there, even though Johnson and Brady kind of worked us over a few times.
Johnson's a stud to this day. I went to high school with him for just 1 year. He was in my sister's class. I just remember his footwork was so good, like just his pivoting and just positioning his body, ball fakes. Like he could. That's how I learned to ball fake. I was a 6 foot center. If I didn't ball fake, I was gonna get the ball swatted into the fourth row every time. So I learned a lot just watching him play. So yeah, good deal. And one thing I want to shout out, guys. I am down to 70 of my chapter books left. And I started a thing where people can buy books for other people. Like we had a lot of state wrestling champions and qualifiers, all state football players who didn't probably know about this book because they're not on social media. I've had a lot of people buy books for other people. So if you're out there watching this, listening to this, and you want to purchase a book for somebody or multiple people or 70 people, and just I can get this done with, I'd appreciate it. So send me a Facebook message. If you want to buy a book or buy a book for someone else, that'd be great. So, all right, fellas. Well, I appreciate you doing this. This was a lot of fun. Literally, I had you guys in class as a sub. Jordan was one of our managers, and I hope you don't remember a lot of things from your elementary days. They're interesting to hang out with at times and listen to what we were saying back then. So hopefully your memory isn't as good as some people's are. So.
Yeah, those bus rides are, a distant memory. I won't bring up those.
I have some memories from when I was a manager, and Jamie Veldhouse, Merriam, her and I have talked about that before, and she goes, I did that to you. I said that to you. And I'm like, yeah. Oh, man, that's not good. So, yeah, good time. So, well, fellas, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, and go Eagles.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.